But in this timeline, one small change altered everything. One Soviet army positioned near Smolensk was supposed to retreat east and regroup, but German forces arrived faster than expected, just hours earlier than in real history. They closed the escape route. 300,000 Soviet soldiers were trapped. They fought for days. But without supplies, without reinforcement, without hope, they surrendered. With their surrender, the road to Moscow opened faster than anyone expected. The war had been going well for Germany. Too well. In less than 2 years, Hitler's armies had conquered most of Europe. Poland had fallen in weeks. France, once thought invincible, had collapsed in just over a month. Even Britain, protected by the sea, had barely survived. But Hitler believed the real war had not begun yet. The real war was in the East. The Soviet Union was larger than anything Germany had ever faced. Its land stretched endlessly. Its population numbered in the hundreds of millions. Its army was massive. Many German generals were nervous. They believed invading the Soviet Union would destroy Germany. Not immediately, but slowly. Because the Soviet Union was too big to defeat quickly. Hitler disagreed. He believed the Soviet Union was weak. He believed it would collapse if struck hard enough.
The Soviet Union will crumble before our might. Advance.
On June 22, 1941, he put that belief to the test. The invasion began before sunrise. Along the entire border, German artillery opened fire. The ground shook as thousands of guns fired at once. Soviet communication lines were destroyed instantly. Airfields were bombed before aircraft could take off. Within hours, confusion spread across the Soviet front lines.
Hold the line! Do not retreat!
Commanders could not contact headquarters.
Command, this is post Will. We're with Nala. Come on, blind here. Please respond.
Units could not coordinate with each other. Entire divisions were left without orders. German tanks moved forward without slowing. They did not stop to fight every Soviet unit. They bypassed resistance. They surrounded it. They destroyed it later. Speed was their weapon. And speed was working. In the first week alone, hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers were captured. Not because they lacked courage. They did not know where to retreat. They did not know their own army was collapsing around them. Some continued fighting, believing reinforcements would arrive. Reinforcements never came, because there were none left. In Moscow, Joseph Stalin struggled to understand what was happening. He had believed Germany would not invade yet. He had believed there was still time. Now that time was gone. Reports arrived constantly. Every report worse than the last. Entire armies destroyed. Entire regions lost. Entire defensive lines gone. Still, Stalin refused to accept the scale of the disaster. He ordered units to hold their positions. Many of those units were already gone. In real history, this was the moment the Soviet Union began to adapt.
Товарищи, мы перегруппируемся и ударим. Так точно, товарищ Сталин. Здесь будет наша линия обороны.
Factories were moved east. New armies were formed. Defenses stabilized.
Давай, товарищи, быстрее! На восток, на родину! Стройся! Добимся к бою!
But in this timeline, one small change altered everything. One Soviet army positioned near Smolensk was supposed to retreat east and regroup. But German forces arrived faster than expected, just hours earlier than in real history. They closed the escape route. 300,000 Soviet soldiers were trapped. They fought for days. But without supplies, without reinforcement, without hope, they surrendered. With their surrender, the road to Moscow opened faster than anyone expected. German forces advanced relentlessly. Villages fell in hours. Cities fell in days. Refugees filled the roads, moving east on foot, carrying whatever they could hold. Behind them, German aircraft flew low, watching, waiting, ensuring nothing escaped easily. For Soviet civilians, the war no longer felt distant.
It's over.
It was arriving, and it was unstoppable. Inside Moscow, fear began quietly. Government officials stayed longer in their offices. Military commanders stopped making confident predictions. Rumors spread.
Слухи? Оры на фронте? Да, паника растет.
Some said the German army was unstoppable.
The reports are true. Their tanks are endless. We cannot stop them. They are coming.
Some said Moscow would fall. Some said the Soviet Union itself might collapse. No one said these things publicly, but everyone was thinking them. By September, German forces were closer to Moscow than anyone had believed possible. Soviet defenses were still forming, still incomplete, still fragile. Soldiers were rushed into position.
They're getting closer! Hold the line! Reinforcements are here!
Many had little training, many had little equipment. They fought anyway, because they had no choice, because behind them was Moscow, and behind Moscow was everything. But German forces did not stop. They moved forward with cold efficiency. Every kilometer gained made Soviet survival less certain. Every defensive line broken weakened Soviet belief. Because belief matters in war. Armies fight harder when they believe victory is possible. And defeat was beginning to feel inevitable. Part 2. The Fall of Moscow. Winter was coming. In real history, winter saved the Soviet Union. German forces froze. Supply lines collapsed. But in this timeline, Germany had moved faster. Fast enough to reach Moscow before winter became deadly. Fast enough to attack while victory was still possible. The battle began at the edge of the city. Soviet soldiers fought desperately, street by street, building by building. They knew what Moscow meant. They knew what would happen if it fell. But they were exhausted, undersupplied, outnumbered, and increasingly alone.
Barely enough left for one last stand. They're coming. We're on our own.
German forces pushed deeper into the city. Artillery destroyed entire blocks. Fires burned out of control. Civilians hid in basements, listening to the sound of war above them. Some tried to flee. Many could not. The city became a battlefield, and battlefields do not protect civilians. They consume them. Inside the Kremlin, Soviet leadership faced reality. They could not hold the city, not without reinforcements. Not without time, they began evacuating east. Quietly, desperately, not announcing it publicly. Because announcing it would mean admitting defeat. And admitting defeat would accelerate collapse. When German forces reached the center of Moscow, resistance did not end immediately. Some Soviet units continued fighting. Some refused to surrender. Some fought until they were destroyed. But without coordination, without leadership, without hope, resistance could not survive, and Moscow fell. The fall of Moscow did not destroy the Soviet Union instantly, but it destroyed something essential: unity. Communication broke down completely. Some Soviet armies continued fighting in isolation. Others surrendered. Others retreated endlessly east. The Soviet Union still existed, but it no longer functioned as a single nation. It was fragments. Fragments cannot win wars. In Berlin, Hitler received the news with disbelief. He had believed victory was possible. Germany had done what no army in history had done. It had captured Moscow. It had broken the Soviet Union's center. It had changed the balance of the war. Forever. Across Europe, the news spread rapidly. Germany was unstoppable.
Moscow has fallen.
German forces declare victory.
It's over. They can't be stopped. The map shows it all.
Germany had defeated its greatest enemy. Resistance movements weakened. Hope faded, because if the Soviet Union could collapse, who could resist Germany? In Britain, leaders understood immediately what this meant. Germany no longer faced a two-front war. Germany could focus entirely on the West.
The East is secure. Focus all power west. Jawohl. The redeployment begins.
Britain was alone again, and more vulnerable than ever. In the United States, military planners faced a darker reality. Any invasion of Europe would now face a stronger Germany. A Germany with more resources, more manpower, more territory. Victory was no longer inevitable. Victory was uncertain. The war did not end immediately, but it became longer, harder, more dangerous, because Germany had survived its greatest threat, and survival had made it stronger. History remembers the Soviet Union as the force that stopped Germany, the force that absorbed the invasion, the force that endured, but in this timeline, it did not endure long enough, and that changed everything, because history is not guaranteed. It survives through moments, small moments, fragile moments, moments where collapse almost happens, and sometimes moments where collapse actually does.